Had a nice 5-minute rest. My apologies for that. We had a technical problem, but let's get started. My name is Keith Nelson. As we can see, I'm the coaching course director at the University of Cambridge. ICE, that's not in-car entertainment. That's the Institute of Continuing Education, which is for adult learners who want to study. And the thing we're going to explore this afternoon is, can we really learn coaching skills online? That's what I do. I train people to coach. I work as an executive coach myself, and I work with organisations around developing coaching cultures. And I want to start around, probably around 15 years ago. And 15 years ago, I was organising training courses for a media company, and I worked for the media company. And we would have people who worked on gardening titles at the time that included the garden from the RHS and RIDE, which is for motorbikers. And it's really interesting when we would start our workshops, because people would be arriving in the room, and I call these the perfect pruners or the good gardeners. They would be sitting in the training room ready to start at 9 o'clock. Then the phone would start ringing, and it would be our hairy bikers. And typically they were on these and various other motorbike magazines. They did not want to be in a classroom. They did not want to be in a workshop. They wanted to be anywhere else. And all the excuses would start. And at the time I found quite a challenge on my energy taking all these calls at the start of the course. But I actually discovered some really powerful lessons for that. And that's really around developing the appropriateness of the learning environment. So what am I doing now? Well, delivering these programs at the Institute of Continuing Education, and they would form into two main categories, okay? First of all, a certificate and diploma in coaching at HE levels 4 and 5, and those run across a year. And those are blended programs. So they will start with a workshop format, 2 days of workshops or 3 days of workshops, followed by 7 or 8 weeks study, online study, culminating in an assignment. So that's one course. And the other courses that we're delivering are what I would call taster courses. These are 7-week introductory courses to different themes, such as executive coaching, life coaching, or the interpersonal dynamics of executive coaching. And I really want to explore that, because when I first started entering this, I was like many people, well, can you really teach this stuff online? You know, coaching is face-to-face. Is it ever really going to work? So for me, it's been quite a learning journey, and I've been doing these now for a number of years. And the purpose really is just to explore this, to consider, I think, some of the things that really make it important if it's going to work online, and of course if it's going to work in a workshop, and then to, I think, indicate some ideas where a workshop format worked my best and where the online format might work best. And I think there's arguments for both of those. And when we're working online, it's around creating a community. We cap our courses off at around 20, 21, 22 students. And we'll be studying for a period of 7 weeks. And we will be using, obviously, materials that will be uploaded. There will be self-assessments. There will be discussion forums. There will be online seminars or webinars. I will coach people live online in front of the group, and we will be encouraging students to coach each other during the program. So it's intended to be very experiential and very interactive. And for me, the challenge was, well, how do we set this up? How do we create this learning environment? And I came across sort of 3 main areas to be thinking about. One is the students or the learners. When I coach people in business, we can have very powerful conversations. And my first mantra is the words of Dahan, first do no harm. It's how do we create a safe environment? And in coaching, in coach training, how do we create a safe environment? Because when we're building courses, we build them upon knowledge. So we'll build the platform for people to learn. We'll build it on practical skills, so they are practicing the coaching skills with one another. And thirdly, we're building awareness and self-awareness. So we're going through quite a journey, and this can be quite a challenging journey for people. So first of all, it's making it a safe environment. coming into that is the role of the facilitator. What's my role? How can I create that environment? And thirdly, this is key, and this is for me is key in coaching, and it's key in coach training. What is that co-created reality between the two people in coaching or within that group when we are working together? If we look at students, and this is a really interesting place to start, because this is some of the work that I did some research in 2011. How comfortable do you feel? And I put this question to coaches and trainee coaches who I knew, just to get an understanding of their comfort levels. And what we can see from this is, if we're coaching with a single partner over here, 95% said that they were very comfortable discussing in that environment. If we go into groups of threes, which is a lot what we do in a workshop, it's dropped to 86%. Of groups up to 5, it's down to 80%. Groups of 6 or more, 60%. And finally, we get to online, 33%. So that piece of research told me that only 1 in 3 students were comfortable taking part in discussions online. And for me, it's a really interesting start point to be working from, because it then went on to the next point, which is around self-disclosure. And I said one of the key planks that we build our coaching programs on is building awareness of other people, self-awareness of ourselves. The more we are aware of ourselves, the more effective we can be when we are actually coaching others. And what was interesting here is the figures are just lower, they're proportionally lower. So only 67% are comfortable self-disclosing in one-to-one. And you get to online and it goes down to 20%. 1 in 5. So I took that as my start point, how to create a safe environment, a learning environment, when there is that hesitation. And if we're discussing in a workshop, we get that instant feedback. If we're working online, we might be in our house or our home somewhere, or in our office, and we are on our own. And we post something up onto a discussion forum, we press the send button, and nothing happens, because we're then waiting for the discussion to go through. So for me, it was really around how do we meet, how do we work with, how do we overcome some of those challenges? How do we make it comfortable? How do we make it safe for students? Okay. That brings in the role of the tutor or the facilitator. And when I first started working online, you know, there's this myth, you can just take all your workshop materials and put them online and hey, it's easy, because instead of doing it for a day, you're only doing it for an hour or hour and a half. Well, I very quickly learned it doesn't work that way. And I'm learning that what you put into this is what you get out. But I like the work of these two people from 2011 in a book called The Excellent Online Instructor. And they took about 3 emergent skills that contribute to an excellent online learning environment. Presence. It's the presence of the facilitator. Creating and maintaining a learning community, and how we effectively develop and facilitate online courses. I've said to you that the communities that we work with, they're not hundreds or thousands of people. These are managed communities of a size around 20 to 22 people. They will be from all over the world. Typically it's a very international group that we're working with. And so posts are coming in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the golden thread that is running through our programs that I encourage is a discussion forum. It's discussions. And being a coach and not a trainer in this, for me this is around light touch involvement. Okay. Just to show you what we're doing, this is just an example, a screen grab of one particular theme. It's the roles and the responsibilities of a coach. And as you can see, what we've put up there are a number of materials. So the role of the coach, questions, coaching in pairs, guidelines. This is the week where actually the material online is a little bit lighter because we're sending them off to connect with each other. Skype, telephone, email, face-to-face if they live near to one another. And Below that is a recording of an online seminar, which was a live coaching demonstration session that I'm going to show you in a minute. And we have the discussion forums and the student lounge. And one thing I find interesting is on the discussion topics that we're exploring there, I'm always asking students and reminding them this is a coaching course. So opinions and views are fantastic, and we get loads of those. But I also say this as a coach, and one of the coach's key tools is questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions to other people, because sometimes it's the simplest question that can have the biggest impact, and it can really open the gates for further conversations. And this is a screen grab from a seminar that we ran on the 17th of January, so just a few days ago, and it's a live coaching demonstration session. And this was working with Linda. She's based in Canada, and on the right hand side you can see we have 5 other students who were in the room observing the coaching session but not taking part. We can't see or hear them, they are silent observers. And the whole session lasted around 47 to 48 minutes, just under 50 minutes. Not too short that we can't have a meaningful coaching conversation, but not too long so you encounter technical problems then watching it later on. The coaching session lasted 20 minutes, and then we had the review. And that was looking back at what had happened. It was Linda sharing her experiences, it was the students with their observations, it was the students asking questions. And what was really nice about that demonstration session online, for me and Linda as the 2 participants, we were aware of the other people, but we weren't aware of them. We kind of got into our own thing. If I'm in a workshop and I do a coaching demonstration session, it's in front of the group. So that's the sort of thing we're seeking to work with and to achieve on the coaching programs. It's creating this safe environment, it's creating this opportunity for experiential learning, and that is what emerges from that. So, here's some student feedback. And I like this because I like it's mixed feedback. So one student is saying that they miss my presence in the discussion, and then the next one is saying, well, actually I got it about right because I let the discussions go on. And again, it's the different learner needs that are encountered, that one wanted more of a presence from me than the other one. I work quite light touch when discussions are emerging. I want the students to be exploring. I will get involved when I feel it's necessary and it's appropriate. I thought that was useful feedback. Another feedback was, I would have liked Keith to have interacted with me a bit more, but maybe I should have interacted with him. So there's that kind of nervousness and that anxiety that we're working with there. Okay, so in terms of what have I learned and what can I share with you? And I want to look at it first from the workshop perspective, and then I think from the online perspective. If we start with the workshop perspective, we can work with the 5 senses. What do we see? What do we hear? What do we feel? What do we smell? What do we taste? I must admit, I've never tasted anyone in a workshop or a coaching session. I don't use that sense. The next one is smell. And when I'm coaching, I very rarely actually use smell. Occasionally, I've smelled fear in a client once, and we might notice particular fragrances or body odours. I don't know. She's actually all useful data. Don't use that one too much. And then we have touch, where we have the handshake or possibly the warm greeting at the start, but during a coaching session, I'm not touching the client. And then we go into seeing and hearing. I think there's a lot around the seeing and the hearing, because I think in terms of seeing, it's what do we notice, what do we observe? If I am coaching somebody one-to-one, there is nothing better than being in that room with that person. And I think, yes, for the group as well, in a training environment, we're seeing what's going on, we're reading the room, we're noticing, we're collecting, if you like, the cognitive and emotional data from all over. And workshops are very, very powerful in that regard. And seeing, what do we notice? When I'm coaching, sometimes there's that, I may have it now, a little bit of blood coming up to the neck when people are feeling a little bit anxious. It's going to be difficult to see that in the online environment. So the seeing, the noticing is one thing, but hearing, and I'm going to come back onto that, there's times when I think we can hear better online than we can actually in a workshop. So that's the noticing, it's the most powerful one. And as I say, what I'm discovering, academic knowledge, practical coaching skills, and self-awareness, we can develop all that online. So let's have a look at what I think maybe online might work more effectively. I think there's a really important start point here. Learners are separated by time and space. It's about creating a system, we're building systems from a start point where your learners are more alone. In a workshop, they'll all be together and everyone will be having their series of mini identity crises and all that sort of stuff's going to be going. In this position, they're on their own. They're either at home or they're in their office. And I think that gives us challenges. How do we create a safe learning environment? How do we create a safe system? Also gives us some opportunities. And the first one, how can we leverage that alone factor? Because it allows us to create an intimacy, I believe, that we cannot always do in a workshop format. We can create a bubble. And when I showed that that coaching session that we conducted, for me it was a bubble between me and the coachee or the coach trainee in that environment. Other people were there, but we were less conscious of them. And I think there's a wonderful richness that can come out of that. Listening, I mentioned that last time, hearing through headphones. What I notice when I'm coaching, and I might be using the Adobe Connect system, which is the one there, or Skype, it kind of is a little bit flat. Put the headphones on, and there's much more of a richness of the intonation of people. And oddly enough, I can sometimes pick up that tone more clearly than if I was in a face-to-face, because it's coming right into my ears. You can really hear it very clearly. And I've never worn headphones in a coaching session. So actually, there might, for hearing, that can be more powerful. Communicating with students via email, it sounds an obvious one. But what I did, when I first started off, I wanted to coach people entirely through a virtual learning environment. I've actually discovered by working through emails and different communications and by students connecting in a student lounge on the VLE, but also directly versus email, there's almost like a visible communication and there's an invisible one. And I'm finding that invisible one is really adding a lot of value in terms of the connections that are going between the students and between me and the students. I think it's also easier to speak easily on a one-to-one. And if I'm running a workshop, time is always a pressure. And at lunchtime or break times, but it's so easy in that online environment to hook up with somebody and to have what I'd say is some really powerful coaching conversations. And lastly is the time chunks from 12 minutes to 12 days. Yes, we can have really short communications and we can have long ones. And 12 days actually relates to email coaching, where the two of us are not online together at the same time. And actually it's gone on for as long as 12 days. And there's something wonderful just getting somebody, the coachee or the client, and they've written something and I'll ask a question, they'll come back to me the next day. And there's all this reflective time and space is emerging. And many of you will know how cathartic it is sometimes to write. So there's lots of possibilities there. So finally, this is my final slide. Okay, so that point that somebody's made there, that's what I'm trying to achieve online. Can I create that environment, which is a very different one to the workshop, of intimacy and friendliness, and as the student said, sitting together or exchanging views in the halls, exchanging views in the hallways. So what I said is that bit of the communication we're creating, which does not go on to the VLE. If we can do that, then I think we're creating this really positive learning environment that has lots of potential. And the more I've sort of been thinking about this, I asked myself this question at the end: what is there in a workshop that I can't achieve online? And the more I think about it, and the more I look at it, the more I say, actually, what is there that I can't do and I can't achieve? Accepting sometimes where the workshop's going to be the best format, and sometimes where the VLE is going to be the best format. And if we can interplay between the two with a very different presence, working around the common themes of a safe learning environment, communicating effectively and maintaining a presence, I think it lends itself to some very rich possibilities. We started slightly late. We have a couple of minutes left before our allotted finish time of 2:15. Are there any questions? I'm happy to take them now or round on stand 366.
Is this something that the Cambridge University has embraced for a long time, or is it a recent discovery thanks to technology development?
Well, my colleague Paul can answer that more clearly because he looks after all the courses. I have been delivering these for probably around 3 or 4 years now. So, and it was already in existence when I started, and I've been encouraged to use it. So in terms of the workshop format, it's a 2 or 3 day workshop according to whether on the certificate or the diploma, then a period of online study. And we're preparing people to go from one to the next. So sometimes in the workshop we'll have discussions with blindfolds on to replicate what it's like to talk on a VLE.
Are you able to make use of the students' offline time between sessions? Are you able to set tasks for
Yeah. So, sorry, I should have read your question up to the history, but this one, can we set tasks offline? Yes, very much so. So it might be a particular chapter from a book. It might be a self-assessment exercise, and we would certainly encourage that to be thinking and working online. And one of the challenges, I think, comes back to that confidence, is that engagement and keeping people engaged, because there are some people who are very hesitant to one extreme, very nervous, and those who are just absolutely love it. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have any further questions, stand 366. Thank you very much.